Good evening, I'm Kelly Wright, and welcome to the Kelly Wright Show. As always, we seek to provide you with the illuminated truth that reveals the extraordinary accomplishments of the African American community, the African diaspora, and its great contributions to the world. Your headlines in just a moment. But first, some observations. Did you happen to see the NAACP Image Awards over the weekend? Well, I did. And if you did, then I hope you feel like I do, the same sense of pride as I continue to feel today. My only regret is that my team and I could not have been there to soak in the positive atmosphere going in the room. Yet, you could feel the palpable positive vibes emanating on air. It was a night filled with an open display of love, humility, and pride in the accomplishments of powerful and influential Black Americans coming together, as I like to say, in love, freedom, and peace. They're doing more than just being recognized for their incredible talents. They're proactively engaged in using their platforms of influence to pave the way for more people of color to get involved in telling our own stories about us and for us, for generations to come. They're doing what we seek to do here on the Kelly Wright Show. Collectively, we are all striving for excellence, to inform, entertain, and inspire. Just Mercy, which won the Image Award for the Best Movie of the Year, depicted the true story of thousands of Black men and women who are disproportionately incarcerated. With Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan at his side during his acceptance speech, attorney Brian Stevenson, who has fought so hard for the freedom of so many Black Americans, wrongly convicted, used the moment to speak out about criminal justice, stating, "We cannot stay silent. We must speak truth and justice. There is a presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. You can be a screenwriter, a director, and a music star or celebrity, but you still have to navigate these presumptions of dangerousness and guilt." Stevenson adding that we must continue the fight. And then there's Lizzo, who won the Image Award for the Entertainer of the Year. She was stating the real award of the night was the African American people, stating this: "You are the award. We are so special. We are such a beautiful people. This is just a reminder of all the incredible things that we can do." So my hat's off and kudos to all the winners and participants for creating a real-life Wakanda moment. To the NAACP, thank you for bringing all of us together to celebrate our true image of being great. You've inspired all of us to keep striving for excellence. And now, here are your headlines. Senator Bernie Sanders walked away from the Nevada caucus as the big winner. The Vermont senator outpaced the rest of the field significantly in Nevada, picking up major support from young people and the Latino community. All of the candidates will now head to the Palmetto State, South Carolina. President Trump is in India. The president arrived in India for a whirlwind visit with Prime Minister Modi. The Prime Minister and President Trump announced a $3 billion defense deal. The cases of coronavirus continue to grow. Fears about the spreading virus are increasing daily as more cases are diagnosed in countries around the world. The majority of the cases are in China, but the worldwide number of infections has passed 76,000 with more than 2,500 deaths. The global fear is causing the stock market to tank. Lifestyle icon B. Smith has passed away. B. Smith was known for her elegance, her grace, her charm, and her style. She began her career as a model in the 1960s. She was one of the first African-American models to land a major magazine cover and later built her lifestyle empire. She was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's in 2013. She was just 70 years old, and she will be missed. And another sad passing to report, legendary NASA mathematician Katherine Johnson, made famous from Oscar-nominated movie Hidden Figures, died today. She was 101. But Dr. Ben Chavis was recently in Nevada to see what's happening on the ground and to talk to businessman Tom Steyer. We had that report here last week, recall, on Friday. He joins us now with the latest political insights. But before we get into the politics, Dr. Chavis, you were also in LA. You had quite a busy weekend, and you were in Los Angeles to participate or at least attend the 51st NAACP Image Awards.
Absolutely. I brought you a copy of the program book. It was a tremendous program. The Honorable John Lewis received the Chairman's Award, and the President Award went to Rihanna. Man, her speech was great. It was about global unity, the oneness of humanity, striving for excellence. The NAACP 51st Image Award was all about the excellence of Black Americans.
And that's what you and I continue to do on the Kelly Wright Show, and even
Absolutely.
in our own lives as we operate apart from this to keep striving for excellence. Oh, that was a fantastic event for you, and thanks for bringing that to me. Don't
Absolutely.
keep it. Give
There
it
you
up.
go.
Give
It's
it up.
yours.
Give it
It's
up.
yours. It's yours.
Right. I love it. Okay, so I digress. Let's get back to the point at the political issue at hand. Okay, so Bernie wins Nevada. Joe Biden comes in second. Now we're going to South Carolina. You had this amazing interview with Tom Steyer. Let's start with Steyer.
Yes.
How will he do in South Carolina?
Well, Steyer also moved up in Nevada. And I think that it's going to be a brokered convention. I believe that Vice President Biden will probably win South Carolina. In fact, I'm heading to South Carolina after this program, so I'll be able to report to you on the debate.
And you have an interview
tomorrow
coming up
night.
with
have a live interview with
President.
Vice President Biden tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So it's a fluid situation, but one thing is certain: the black vote. The black vote is going to be determinative.
Yes.
Not only in South Carolina, but in Super Tuesday and all the primaries leading up to the convention. And we don't want anybody to take the black vote for granted.
Well, doesn't that pose a problem for Bernie Sanders? Because now that he's emerging as the front runner, people can take shots at him for his past, for things that he has said about being supportive of communism. And some people will begin to look at that, especially in the black community, and say, well, wait a minute, why are you not supportive of America and for the black community?
Well, I think it will be a challenge for Bernie Sanders. He spoke at our convention, the National Newspaper Publishers Convention in Cincinnati.
And how did he do?
Last year. He did well. And he has a very diverse staff. Senator Turner, a well-known person, elected official, former elected official in the state of Ohio, is his assistant campaign director. So he knows that he has to do well among African Americans. So we'll see. You know, I think, again, I think it's a contest. It is a struggle, and I think the whole issue about democratic socialism is something that he has to continue to define and refine so that most Americans understand where he's coming from in terms of economics.
And I'm glad you raised the point, democratic socialism, because some people might look at my statement about, or my question about communism as being too out there, but he was in support of a lot of people who were repressive regimes, and they would come from a communist socialistic state of being. So he will have to address that at some point, will he not?
Well, I think it will. I think one of the reasons why he's now, quote unquote, the front runner is because Bernie Sanders has resilience.
He does. He
You know,
does indeed.
And he's been around.
Make no mistake about it.
That's right. And so I think no one should count him out at this point. He's a front leader because he's built a broad coalition. Now the question is, can he reach out to people of color in the same way he's reached out to other segments of the American population?
For example, he won the Latino community out there in Nevada. Can he hope to win the black vote in South Carolina, then on to the super primary? And of course, that this is all about delegates. And he's passing that 15% threshold. You got Biden. I want to go back to what you asked Steyer, or what Steyer conveyed to you about reparations, about the African American community being the moral conscience of America.
Absolutely. And
stating unequivocally that he believes the African American vote would choose the next president of the United States.
He was very straight to the point, and of all the major presidential candidates, Tom Steyer is the only one that's mentioned the importance of reparations, repairing this damage, repairing the consequences of institutionalized racism for centuries. It has had a devastating effect on African American community. That's why Reverend Barber keeps reminding everybody, all the presidential candidates, got to talk more about poverty, got to talk more about getting people out of poverty. And at least Tom Steyer, in my one-on-one interview with him, seemed to hit the mark.
Well, tomorrow's the debate we'll be following very closely, and always good of you to be on the show. You're a friend of mine, a friend of the show.
Thank you.
Dr. Ben Chavis, safe travels to South Carolina, and thank you for my present.
Absolutely.
I love it. Okay.
God bless.
All right. We'll be back with a lot more after this, with more political analysis on the upcoming Democratic presidential debate and primary in South Carolina. Don't go away. The all-important South Carolina primary is up next. African-American voters make up a third of the electorate in South Carolina. Avis DeWeaver joins us now to weigh in on this issue. Avis, always good to have you, and thanks for rejoining us on the Kelly Wright Show.
Absolutely.
So, South Carolina, let's start with Joe Biden, because he always said that he would do well in South Carolina because black and brown voters there love him.
Yes.
What's he going to run into there?
Well, he has got to hold on to his lead. He started out with a gargantuan lead when he first announced, and specifically among the African American community, and he has held on to that lead. However, the trend is that it's getting narrower and narrower. So he has got to not only eke out of victory, I believe he has to win decisively in order to go into Super Tuesday on a strong note.
Interesting. Do you think some of the erosion may be due to some of the other candidates, like Mike Bloomberg, despite his weak performance in the presidential debate in Nevada?
Well, it's a couple of things. You know, lucky for Biden, Bloomberg isn't on that particular ballot, but I think that looking at Biden's performance from the very beginning, people have not been as confident as they would have liked to have been, because he just doesn't seem to be the old Joe. And so people are looking around and they're still sort of shopping, because I think there's some concern that he may not have the strength that's necessary to really take the ball all the way in November.
Well, let's drill down on that, because a lot of people have observed Joe Biden's performances of late. And like you said, he doesn't appear to be the old Joe. And let's face it, he's been through a lot emotionally. And now some are saying maybe he doesn't have it, maybe this isn't his time, maybe he should go the other way.
It's unfortunate because, you know, on paper, he would be the perfect candidate. And still, in some polls in the battleground states, he's doing quite well, better than the other candidates. But the reality is, physically, he doesn't seem to be as strong as we've seen him. And I agree with you. I think that with the loss of Bo, that was probably that last blow that made it very difficult for him to fully rebound. And so people are concerned, like, you know, people want to win so bad that they really want to see someone that they can be extremely confident in, that they can take it to Trump come November. And unfortunately, Biden is not really living up to what people believe that we need in order to make that happen.
Yeah, again, to your point, you mentioned Bo, which was his son who he loved so much and cherished. And Bo Biden wanted him to run for president.
Yes.
He didn't do it because of what he had suffered in the loss of losing his son to cancer. So as you look at the other candidates, who's out there that might track well with black Americans throughout the South?
You know, this is a really interesting question, because if you look at what else is happening in the Super Tuesday states, Bloomberg has been polling quite well considering his late entry into the race. Sanders has been improving his positioning among African Americans as compared to the last presidential cycle. Warren's been doing better than a lot of people have been giving her credit for. But the reality is that the vote is so split between everybody except Sanders that it makes for a very interesting race in terms of who's actually going to get the plurality come these actual primaries.
So let me go a little bit deeper with this. Let's talk about black women, because Elizabeth Warren raised some issues about women and sexism, non-disclosures, as she pointed fingers at Mike Bloomberg.
Right.
Then there's the whole sexism thing that's out there surfacing and bubbling up because of Warren firing shots at all the different candidates and actually saying, you're not doing enough for women, and you're certainly not doing enough for women of color. Is she right?
You know, I think she's definitely right in that we could definitely do more.
But is she the one who can address the issue?
That's an excellent question, and I will say that because, you know, on the one hand, she is out there right now raising those issues when other people haven't been raising them recently. These are issues, once again, that were raised by Kamala Harris and more before she left the race. And so it seems as if Elizabeth is trying to pick up that banner now. But the reality is, here's her biggest Achilles heel as far as I see it. And this is just a reality, just as an analyst. People want to win. And I believe there really is a strong concern. Can a woman really win? Even though we know that Hillary received more than 3 million votes over Trump as it compares to the actual popular vote last time, when it comes to those crucial battleground states, I believe that people, even if they like what they're hearing with her, there are some people who would say that I'm not sure that we can take the chance of having a woman at the top of the ticket because of the level of sexism in this country. There is a concern that she's not going to be able to win in those crucial areas.
That's a mouthful.
It
and
is.
We've got to keep watching it. You'll come back, I hope,
Absolutely,
talk to us
my
more
pleasure.
about it. Dr. Avis DeWeaver,
Thank you.
always a welcome.
Absolutely.
Always welcome. Back with more after this. And welcome back. Very sincere and serious story to talk about right now: domestic abuse, domestic violence. A 2002 shooting spree kept the Washington, D.C. metro region on edge for weeks. A sniper was gunning down people randomly all over the area. But as it turns out, it was really a plot to commit the perfect murder of our next guest. Mildred Muhammad is the ex-wife of convicted sniper John Muhammad. Now, John Muhammad was eventually executed for his crimes, and Mildred has turned that terrifying event into a cause as an advocate against domestic abuse. She's my special guest today. Mildred, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I am inspired from your story because you took a painful situation in your life, a painful ordeal, and turned it into power. Tell me how.
Well, I knew that 80% of victims do not have physical scars to prove that they're victims. 20% do. We concentrate on the physical because it's a physical assault and we're visual people. But the ones that are abused without scars have a difficult time in surviving. And so that is what I'm bringing light to, the 80% who do not have physical scars.
As you look back over that past, how did you get through those moments? How was John Muhammad trying to make this the perfect murder?
Well, he was killing innocent people. This is what law enforcement stated. The theory was he was killing innocent people to cover up my murder so that he could come in as the grieving father to get custody of our children. So no one would have thought anything about someone else being killed by the sniper.
And so what drives your passion now? Or I guess I should back up and say, how did you get out of that situation and then go on to become the champion of hope for a lot of women who are embroiled and mired in domestic violence?
So what I did was I separated my emotions from the actual facts in order to get past the fear that I was feeling. I had to look at it for exactly what it is, look up every emotion in the dictionary, look at anger, shame, guilt, to figure out which one of those definitions really resonated with my spirit, and that was the one I needed to work on. So going through that process, understanding why I'm feeling this way, digging to the root of it, handling every part of my pain so that I can move forward and leave all of that behind, which is what I did. So I don't have any triggers, I don't have any flashbacks, I'm completely healed. And some people think, well, when you're a victim of domestic violence, you can never heal. You never will if you have that attitude, because I was not going to allow John to rule me from the grave and I'll not be able to move forward.
Well said and well done, by the way. Now, where did faith come into the question? Did faith help you get through that as well?
My faith helped me. I fasted, I journaled, I danced. I did everything that I needed to do in order to handle each emotion. But I prayed. I was on my prayer rug a lot. I asked God to put people and resources in place to help me. You can ask for the people, but they may not have the resources. And you ask for the resources, but the people may not be there. So you have to ask for them together. And He supplied everything that I needed to get out of that.
He being God.
Me
See,
being
we should
God.
not escape that, because while you intellectually did it, there had to be this mental and spiritual breakthrough as well.
Correct.
And you mentioned that you prayed, you fasted, and you danced. I find dance very interesting, because dance would be a form of worship, and you can dance your way out of situations by worshiping God, even in the midst of your dire
Even in the
circumstances.
midst of it, exactly. And that's what you have to do. Some people are angry with God. Some people don't want to pray. And that's okay, because you have to do what you need to do to get to your healing. Everybody's journey is different. The way everybody come upon their healing, that's their process. But we should not judge people when they are in pain.
What made you become a speaker?
Well, it was difficult for me to find work. People didn't want to hire me because they thought being around me would mean they would get shot. So I went to the library. I got a book on how to become a professional speaker. I read the book from cover to cover, called the author, asked him could I use his contracting questionnaire because it was copyright infringement. He asked me, why did you want to do that? I explained it to him. He said, you know what, you do what you need to do. I looked up domestic violence conferences, found 2, submitted my proposal, and they hired me, and I've been speaking ever since.
And as you speak, what are the responses that you receive from women, or in the rare cases, men who have been victims of domestic abuse?
Women tell me that they appreciate the 80% do not have physical scars, because for a long time they thought that they had to have physical scars. It was one woman in particular that followed me to 3 of my events in Virginia, and she finally said, Ms. Muhammad, I'm not stalking you. I said, yeah, I was wondering. And she said, you know, I just needed for you to say, I needed to hear you say that again, you don't have physical scars, because I've been in an abusive marriage for 17 years, and I went home and I packed up me and my children. I want you to know you saved my life.
Wow.
When men speak to me, they appreciate me addressing their pain, because they don't feel that they are being treated well when they admit that they are being abused.
Ms. Muhammad, best to you and your family, your
Thank
children.
you.
I hope they're all doing well.
We are doing very well.
With a mom like you, I would say that they're doing extremely well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You turned your pain into power. You are more than
Absolutely.
a survivor. You are an overcomer. Thank you
Yes,
for being
sir.
on the Kelly Wright Show.
Thank you for
It's my
having
pleasure
me.
to have you. God
Yes,
bless
sir.
you.
Thank
God bless
you.
you.
Thank
We'll
you.
be back more after this break. Welcome back. My next guest is Dia Sims, and she is at the forefront of the budding cannabis industry. So far, African Americans have largely been cut out of the multi-billion-dollar industry, but Dia is working to change all of that. She began her career in the music industry as an executive assistant to Sean P. Diddy Combs and rose to president of his company. She's been named to Ebony's Power 100 and Variety's 2018 Power of Women New York Impact list, just to name a few. Welcome to the show, Dia. I am honored to have you here. And the crew was saying, tell us about this cannabis industry. But more importantly, you're right, to your point, African Americans have been cut out of this.
Oh, 100%, minorities and women, and it is really, it's a tragedy. So kind of person by person, I felt like it was incumbent really upon me to become a part of this industry and then bring as many people as I can along with me.
Describe the industry for us, because a lot of people will look at it from a view of saying, oh, it's just about this, and they get it wrong. Tell me some of the...
Yeah, so I think there is a lot of confusion, right? So I
Yeah,
think
there
just
is.
very simply, right? So first, cannabis is a flower, right? It's a flowering plant, and there's 2 kinds, CBD, THC. CBD is the kind that does not get you high, and THC is what people are more familiar with. When you look at the industry and the amount of money that's being generated, there are estimates of just the CBD side alone being a $24 billion business in the next 3 to 4 years, right? So I do think it's important as a group, everybody pays real attention. You know, as a Black woman who has worked in corporate America for many years, I've looked at how difficult it is to make changes in existing infrastructure. It's pretty hard sometimes you go to a company that's 100, 150 years old, for all their great intentions, not easy to shift and really be focused on diversity in a meaningful way. This opportunity we have right now as a country in cannabis is an opportunity to shape an industry day one the right way with the right level of focus and diversity. And I think we have to really be loud and step up and check what's happening at your neighborhood level, at your city level, at your state level, to see how you can impact and be part of this industry. I do not want to see Black people and women left behind. And I will tell you today, it is still right now about 85 to 90% of CEOs in the space are predominantly white men. No problem with white men, but it needs to be proportionate to the population of the states, and it's not that way right now.
I agree with you 100%. And so what are you doing to bring more African Americans into the space of becoming their own CEOs of companies that deal with CBD?
Yeah, I think the first thing is strictly just sharing the knowledge about it, and also just continue to reinforce the urgency. We don't have a lot of time to watch other people make billions of dollars and not participate, right? So I think that's the first thing. It is important. Go online, search, check today. And the second thing is literally just person by person. A woman I worked alongside for many years at Combs Enterprises, Erica Pittman, just became the first chief marketing officer at a Black-owned company called Viola, which is run by Al Harrington, which you guys may know from the NBA. Now he runs a very successful CBD company. And we're working kind of just person by person to bring in leadership, people who understand how to build brands, and or help share the knowledge if you don't understand how to build brands.
I can't let you go without you telling me about your work relationship and all the years you were with Sean Combs.
Oh yeah, the can't stop, won't stop days, yes. Yeah, so I worked for Sean for about 14 years. Started off with Sean as his executive assistant, and then was able to end up becoming the first president of Combs Enterprises. I worked across all the brands there, Aquahydrate Water, Bad Boy Records, started an in-house ad agency there called Blue Flame, but my baby was building Ciroc Vodka.
Yes, Dia Sims joining us right here today. Much more to come on the Kelly Wright Show. Don't go anywhere, because if you do, you'll miss a lot. Be back in a moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
My next guest, Robert and Tammy Yalley, own the Out of the Ordinary food truck in Dover, Delaware. They also give back to the community by giving free meals to homeless people every week. Thank you, Robert and Tammy, for what you're doing for the homeless people in Dover, Delaware, which is a very popular area because of the races that go on there.
Correct.
As well as casinos. But who would have thought about doing something out of the ordinary like you're doing to feed the homeless?
Right.
From a food truck. How did you stumble on that idea?
You know, it was one of the things where, we grew up where giving back was our passion, right? So we wanted to do something where, we didn't just benefit from having a food truck business, but also giving back to those that need it. So not just Dover, but we also go to Wilmington, we go to Newark, Delaware. So we go all over and feed the homeless whenever we can.
So Tammy, how many people do you think you see over a daily basis?
As far as homeless,
Yeah.
50, 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so when you and your husband decided to go out and do this, did you have any trepidation at all, any fear, or was it like, yeah, let's do this?
No, just let's do it. Yeah.
It's amazing because you're actually taking your business and part of the proceeds are going to help the least of these.
Correct. So it's, just besides feeding the homeless, we also do our back to school giveaway. So this is actually our 6th year. We're going to be doing it this year. We donate gifts to foster cares in Delaware. So we do a lot of different outreach to the community. But feeding the homeless is one of the things that we do. But we do actually do a lot for the youth as far as giving back, teaching them skills in the restaurant business as well. So we do a lot for the community.
And it's amazing, and it's incredible, actually. I'm amazed because when I walk through the streets of Washington, D.C., we're just one block away at the National Press Club building where you see a line of trucks because they have so many tourists coming in. And I don't see any of them giving away food. They're selling it. So in my mind, I'm thinking, how in the world do you sustain your business if you're giving away food to the homeless?
Yeah, you know, it doesn't really take a lot. You know, it takes, you know, you can feed, you know, 100 people with $75. You know, it's beans, hot dogs, chicken. It's not expensive products. You know, it's something that, you know, inexpensive but yet can go a long way.
Now, as a couple, when did you decide that the food business and the food truck business in particular was the right path for you?
Probably about 5-6 years ago. We started doing the business. So it was one of the things we started doing the catering, and then it turned into the food truck business. So it's been going really well.
Between the two of you, who's the best cook?
Oh, she is.
She's modest and.
Yeah.
I'm the home cook. He's the business cook.
Okay.
We share.
And what are some of the favorite meals that you prepare for not just the homeless, but for your clientele?
On the food truck, so one of the favorite meals is we have crab fries. So it's Maryland crab fries. So it's the crab fries is deceiving because it's not just Old Bay fries. So we have, you know, lump crab meat, pork bacon, chipotle sauce.
Stop! I'm hungry already.
Yeah.
All right. And for those who don't know, if you haven't been to Maryland and tried Maryland crabs or crab fries, as you mentioned, you're missing out. Well, I want to thank you both for the great work you're doing. Tammy and Robert Yali. Just appreciate all that you're doing. Keep on keeping on. Feed the least of these, clothe them, and help them. That's what we're, you know, told to do by our faith in God.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you sharing that and sharing the wealth and sharing the health.
And they can also find us on social media as well. Instagram, we're on Out of the Ordinary Catering. Facebook, we're also on as Out of the Ordinary Catering mobile food truck. So it's a lot of different places.
Glad you put that in there. All right. Thank you so much. God bless you both.
Thank you.
All right. We've got a lot more. Stay with us. Welcome back. My next guest is Byron Garrett. He is an accomplished businessman, humanitarian, and inspirational speaker, which you all know that I like that part. He's the author of When Life Gives You Lemons, Turning Adversity, Doubters, and Failures into Success. Welcome, Byron. Thanks for bringing the lemons, man.
Thank you. So excited to do that.
We'll make it some lemonade. So tell me how all this started, because you're doing so much and you do so many things. Yeah. What motivates you every day to get out and live your best life now?
You know, I'm really driven by the notion of how do we leave the world better than we found it. You know, folks say that as this old adage, but the reality is we have a responsibility to ensure that we're helping every single person that we can live their very best life. And so through words on page and also through speaking, I found a creative way to do that and connect with folks across generations.
And how do you find that people are connecting with you when you're giving out that positivity and that inspirational, those inspirational quotes that lift them up?
A couple different ways. Folks either reach out on social media. You have the folks that come up at the end of a session. I did a high school assembly not long ago, and I had a whole host of students who you would not think would ask really personal questions, but they really want to engage because they find that those common truths resonate with them. Either they had their grandmother or big mama or auntie say something similar, and in this particular moment resonated in a way that they wanted to share. This was impactful to them. So I have great appreciation when folks are not only willing to receive the message, but also share and validate, hey, you're on point. It really helped me move from point A to point B.
I got to ask you, as a child growing up, what were your aspirations and how did you develop and achieve the goals you set out to do?
So I wanted to be a business executive. I saw all these great movies in the 80s and 90s that talked about, oh, the corner office, and so that was my dream. My dad's a United Methodist pastor. My mom has always worked in human services, so those were not top of mind for me from a career option. I was like, I'm going to be the business guy. I'm going to run Wall Street. I'm going to do all these major things like mergers and acquisitions. And then the reality was it set in that I really want to do things, not that business doesn't help improve life, because it does across so many segments of society, but I really wanted to be directly engaged. And so education was the area that I picked to really focus on, because I fundamentally believe when you have a quality education, you can do anything in the world that you want to do without question.
Absolutely, absolutely, because education helps us achieve that which we conceive, and because of our education, we can believe that we can accomplish it.
That's right.
Of course, you can't rule out faith either.
Right.
Which is another strong component of that, and of course, Nelson Mandela said, but you know, if you have an education, that's your gateway out of poverty.
That's it.
So
yeah, I call it a passport. It's a passport to anywhere in the world that you want to go to.
I like that.
I mean, I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina originally, and I think about I've traveled to 48 states in the U.S. I've been to probably 25 or 30 different countries, and I never would have thought as a child that those things would be optional. We always think, oh, you'll go to Myrtle Beach. We've done that already.
Yeah,
like, can I go to Paris? Can I go to Rome? Can I do something fundamentally different? And you realize your education really paves the way for you to do any of those things that you set your mind to.
Well, see, that's what we like to hear on the Kelly Wright Show. And at the top of this show, you may or may not have heard me talk about the Image Awards and what happened at the NAACP, and we saw some magnificent moments take place then. How do we continue that? And you're doing it, but what's your advice to African Americans who think, I'm too old to achieve it?
That is not the case, and people think, you know, I've done this extensive amount of studying. You look at folks when they had their peak moments, like a Vera Wang who doesn't become highly successful in fashion until she hits her mid-40s, right? You look at even Oprah's career at the times and stages when it really took off and where it really, you think in your 20s, 30s, I don't know if I got it together, but we see people every single day who do amazing things. I wrote my children's book with that premise in mind, that if the mind can conceive it and the heart can believe it, then the hands can achieve it because it all begins in the mind. So I tell people there's greatness on the inside, and greatness knows no age, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're 5 or 15 or 55 or 75. The reality is we're always percolating something great. Our challenge is to figure out how do we help it come from the inside so that folks see it on the outside.
Come on, somebody, check this out. This is the book that he wrote for children, and as he said, there's a greatness on the inside. Byron Garrett, thanks for joining us, because you, like me, believe that children are the greatness of our future.
They are. Thank you so much.
Teach them all the love and help them possess it inside.
That's
Come
right.
on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
You're welcome back here anytime. I love the positive energy you're giving.
Thank you.
And the inspiration and the hope. All right, Byron Garrett, don't go anywhere. I told you, stay with us. We'll give you a lot of inspiration and information. Be right back. Well, you know how much I love music, so welcome back as we meet Aaron Broadus. He was blessed with the gift of music. He sang his first solo in church at the age of 6 and has gone on to compose and perform all over the country. I'm going to speak it into existence that he'll perform all over the world. Great to have you with us, Aaron.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Tell me about your background, because you started pursuing classical training as well. Is that right?
I did. I started music young in church. So I grew up in the church, and I would always watch my father play piano. And I was kind of in awe. I was like, wow, you know, how do you do that? And would sit next to him sometimes. And then from there, I picked up the trumpet. I started to play. I did my first solo in church I did my first vocal solo in church, and I do remember this. This was a moment where, after I finished singing, God Has Smiled on Me. You know, you hear one of the members of the congregation, yes, sir, and it's just, and they clapped, and I just had this feeling, and I was like, oh, okay, this is great.
Yes, sir. Amen. Amen. Keep playing. Won't you do it?
And so I became part of an after-school group in a jazz band through high school, and then I went to college, and I went to George Mason, and then got my master's from Howard.
Yeah, Howard University.
Yes, and the famous Mr. Fred Irby, who's a legend there, 40 plus years. And, you know, I've run into just some great players, some great musicians, and I've had some great experiences with meeting, you know, friends and then some family members who also play.
That's
mainly
fantastic. Now, out of your experiences of going to George Mason and then to Howard University, you created Broad Sound Entertainment, right?
Yes.
And what does that company do?
Well, I have Broad Sound. The Broad Sound Band is what we call a variety band, and it's a cover band that we do a lot of covers for. We do a lot of weddings and corporate events. So we did an event in 2012 for President Obama. We played for the Democratic National Convention.
You said that too casually.
Okay.
You played for the former president of the United States,
Yes.
Barack Obama.
Yes, we performed for the DNC and President Barack Obama in 2012. And we recently just did a retreat for the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, in Leesburg last year as well. So we've been fortunate to do a lot of venues in DC, in Ohio, in Maryland, in New York. So we'll travel across country to do events like this.
Well, let me put a plug in for you, because I mean you've played for a lot of Democrats, but there's Republicans, there's independents. So there's a Republican convention coming up and a Democrat convention. Music doesn't really know any. It shouldn't know any color, shouldn't know any polarity between two sides. Let's cut that partisan divide through the power of your music.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, Broad Sound was the first band to do a wedding at the Trump Hotel here in D.C. We were booked previously to the current president running in office, and then we played. I believe it was the same day as another opening in D.C. for another major museum, and the staff was great. Everything went fine, and so yes, music knows no bounds.
And with your music, you have the power to help people get out of their doldrums and get out of their left or right funk here in Washington.
Yes, it's a couple things with that. It's one, with our clients, especially when we're doing weddings, and they come up at the end of the evening and they're so appreciative of their special day being special and us being a major part of that. And then musicians in DC being able to bring them in and provide some income to them. I think I'm blessed to be able to do that. So I see myself differently as a result of...
It's a mission.
It is.
All right.
It's become. And through that, I was able to start a second band named Polaris and bring some more musicians into the fold.
Aaron Broadus, you're welcome on the show anytime.
Thank you.
And when we come back, he's Aaron Broadus. We're going to hear more. We're actually going to hear him play. And I'll also come back with my final word. That's next.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Before we close, my final word. Quincy Jones once wrote the song, "What good is a song if it can't inspire? If a song cannot take you higher, then it's not good enough to sing." Therefore, Black Americans, keep singing your song. Keep lifting up every voice and sing the song that keeps you lifted up, because it is your talent and your God-given abilities that has blessed you as a people. And as a result of using your gifts for all the good that can be done in this world, as we saw at the Image Awards, you can do great things for the entire world. So keep on keeping on. Let this be your message to be righted and ignited. And we leave you now with this song from Aaron Broadus, "Keeping It Real." Peace out.